You are listening to Keep Canada Weird, a weekly weird news roundup by the Nighttime Podcast.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the weekly Keep Canada Weird discussion series. If you're new here, Keep Canada Weird is the venue in which my pal handsome Aaron Airport and I seek out and explore the more offbeat Canadian news stories that caught our eye over the past week. In tonight's episode, which we recorded on the evening of August 22nd, 2023, Aaron and I find ourselves looking straight down the barrel of another weird rifle. We catch up on the story of that donair costume Alberta's trying to sell. We hear about a Canadian lockpick who was called upon by an American bookstore. We weigh in on the slightly overgrown but pointless sign in Kitchener. And Keep Canada Weird reviews a collection of Keep Canada Weird podcast reviews. So let's get into it. Handsome Aaron Airport, tell me one weird thing that happened to you today.
Today?
Yeah.
That's really putting me on the spot. Nothing weird happened today.
Damn it. You're supposed to be an expert on this.
Just because
anything weird happened?
Well, that's really I don't like that you said that, because just because you and I might be experts in the weird doesn't mean
that might be. We are.
Well, it's probably arguable depending on who's listening. Like, some people may disagree that you and I know anything about anything.
Idiots, yeah.
Yeah, they're idiots. We think that, but other people may think that they're smart people.
Oh my God, yeah, you're right. Okay, well, let's not limit it to today. How do you feel about the price of gas?
It's brutal. It's $1.90 right now.
Yeah, and is the price of food different or weird?
It's still high. I'd
say the price of food is weird.
I don't find it weird. It's just high.
Okay.
It's nothing weird, but you know exactly what's going on. You know, the grocery stores are ripping us off, man.
Well, I'd love to talk with you about the price of food and gas in our boring lives, but we got to jump right into listener feedback so we can get on with this show here. I guess calling it listener feedback is understating it. What we have here to listen to is a listener named Aaron who seems to not only believe in the animal uprising hypothesis that we talk so much about. Aaron believes she knows exactly where it started. Listen to this.
Okay.
Hey, Jordan. Hey, handsome Aaron Airport. This is Aaron from way down in the States, Alabama. So I'm calling to kind of tell you, I know a couple other listeners think that they know the origin of the animal uprising, and I think I may know the actual origin. And Aaron Airport, I'm sure that you'll be able to enlighten us on the truth of that. But here's the story. So this was years ago. My mom has a client who had a 4-year-old child. They took him to the zoo, and I don't remember which zoo it was. It was in a different state. But they had a traveling penguin exhibit. And on the way home, the child kept sitting in the back seat, and he was saying, Mom, I got a penguin. I've got a penguin in my backpack. And the parents just, yeah, okay, son, good. Thinking that he had maybe talking about the stuffed animal they had bought him, or maybe just that he had like an imaginary friend. So once they got home, they discovered that he actually had a penguin in his backpack. So I'm not here to judge their parenting. I'm not really sure how the child got away from them long enough to get the penguin, but the story goes that he had gone through one of those little bitty doors that accesses the exhibit, and I guess it wasn't locked. He went in there, took a penguin, threw it in his backpack, and they left. So the parents called the zoo and let them know that, their son had stolen a penguin. And they gave them instructions on how to put him in an ice bath to keep him cold enough. And they flew someone from the zoo to their home to pick the penguin up. So I'm just kind of thinking that, maybe this was the start of the animal uprising. One of our young stealing one of their young. Word gets out. It doesn't look good on us humans. Let me know what you think.
new listeners to the show are probably like, what the hell is going on? But let's just say that Aaron and I and the entire Keep Canada Weird army, everyone in Keep Canada Weird Nation, has been following along with, you could call it the animal uprising hypothesis, but we believe it to be fact that animals are sentient, they're mobilizing, and they're here to take back what's theirs. Aaron believes this bizarre mix-up at the zoo may be the initial stone thrown in the animal uprising. First of all, let's talk about it as just in the context of this event. Could you imagine going to the zoo with a child and that child wanders off and puts a penguin in his backpack? Do you believe this story?
I'm surprised that the penguin survived. Like,
I'm surprised that the penguin didn't kick the crap out of the kid.
yeah, but
They're vicious, aren't they?
Isn't this a baby penguin? Like, how did
Where's the mother penguin?
Where's the mother penguin in all this? And that's really where the blame falls, is on the mother penguin, not looking after its young properly.
Yeah, if anyone should be rising up, it's like whatever this Child Protection Services equivalent is for the penguin community. But do you believe this story? Could this happen? Do you see this happening?
I believe it. I can't see why a listener with a beautiful name such as Aaron would call in and
spout lies,
and mistruths about the origins of the animal uprising, unless there's some kind of an attention-getting stunt. But
yeah, what makes me believe it is, like, it's, if it wasn't a true story, if it was just this urban legend going around, it would be like, he took the penguin home and whatever. That's how it would end. But this after theft of the ice bath and someone from the zoo coming out to their house and everything, that just rings true to me. I do believe this story. Oh my God, what a charade. What a spectacle that must have been. But is it spectacle enough for the animals to be like, that's it?
No, I mean, I've always spoken on the show about how far back the animal uprising, or at least the circumstances that spawned the animals' need to uprise against us, goes back as far as humanity does. As it probably even goes back far enough where we used to be animals ourselves. We some could say we still are, but we were animals at one point in time. But then we evolved into humans. We evolved from monkeys. We evolved from little tiny slippery things that lived in the water. It goes all the way back. So I think there's a little, and I hate to say this, but I think there's a little bit of envy and jealousy from the animals watching us, who used to be on the same level as them, evolve into a being that was then able to rise to the top of the food chain and take over the world. And then they sat back getting the scraps, literally, in a lot of circumstances, sitting at a table begging for food from us. I think that's really where the animal uprising started. That's where it all goes back to. And circumstances like this, I'm not saying it's not involved, that it doesn't make the situation worse and make the animals want to continue their uprising against us, but definitely the animal uprising goes all the way back to the dawn of time.
Yeah, I'm sure if you went through caves and found cave drawings from thousands of years ago, you'd probably see drawings of animals in there.
Yeah, I think your scientific opinion there is correct.
Well, that's enough of that. We got to get into it here. We have a full card, and it's one I'm excited for. In fact, one of the stories we're going to talk about tonight is maybe my favorite story we will have covered on Keep Canada Weird yet. Tonight we're going to get into that donair costume we talked about a few weeks back. We're going to hear on how the United States of America called on Canada's greatest lockpicker to solve a mystery. We're going to hear about an overgrown sign in Kitchener. And we'll end it with Keep Canada Weird reviewing Keep Canada Weird reviews. Reviews for the Keep Canada Weird podcast.
Sounds needlessly complicated.
Let's get into it, buddy. You ready for this?
I was born ready. You know that. That's why you hired me.
Let's start right at let's start with the story that updates our prior story. We talked several weeks ago about the Alberta government auctioning off through the government surplus auction a donair costume, of a needlessly realistic looking donair costume. We talked about how people from all over the country were interested. They were bidding on it. Well, the whole thing's over. After over 1,700 bids, a company called Primetime Donair and Poutine won the month-long sale, paying just over $16,000 for this donair costume. Before we talk about it, let's hear a short news clip.
We were amused by it. We thought it was funny.
That was Adele Asim's first reaction when he saw this donair costume up for auction on Surplus Sales, Alberta's online auction site. Over the past month, more than 1,700 bids were placed on the costume. Asim was the highest bidder, shelling out just over $16,000.
This is an Alberta costume. It was made by the Alberta government. It should stay in Alberta and be with Albertans. And that's why I kept the bidding up.
Primetime Donair has 19 locations in Alberta. 17 of them are in Edmonton. Asim plans on using the costume to promote his brand.
I might squeeze my 16-year-old son into it just to kind of get him going around. But we definitely we're thinking of collaborating with some comedians possibly and doing some TikTok content that way. So still to be determined.
He's also thinking about using it for charitable causes like Edmonton's food bank.
Whether it's providing meals, participating in an event, or just having our mascot out with your mascot, giving hugs and high fives. There's always opportunities, and we'll see what happens and where it takes us.
The minister responsible for overseeing the sale says he was pleasantly surprised to see the donair go for such a hefty price tag.
It has certainly made for an interesting story, and the good news is, we're getting our money back. So the Alberta taxpayers are being paid back for their investment in that donair costume.
As for what the money will be spent on,
well, I can say that we're having some conversations, and there's been a lot of talk. No final decisions have been made, but stay tuned. With this story, is always evolving and changing. Who knows what's going to happen?
For now, people will soon be able to catch the donair out in the wild.
It's going to be in the malls for sure. We've got a couple of high-profile mall locations, so some of the first appearances will be in the mall.
Okay, where do we start with this one?
Oh, there's a number of ways you could start this one off. I want to, before I forget the quote, the lady said, "Oh, we're going to have it at food banks and have it out with other mascots giving hugs and high fives."
Well, that's worth $16,000.
Can you imagine anyone in their right mind wanting to hug this thing?
Or like, if you're at a food bank, why would you need like a life-size donair costume? Like, they wouldn't serve donairs at a food bank, for one. And secondly, it's not the kind of place where, like, I think like there's people in mascots running around.
Yeah,
the
point of a mascot is to increase sales of your business, right? So the mascot appears in different public events, and people say,
Praise.
"Oh yeah, there's Ronald McDonald. Oh, McDonald's. Let's go get McDonald's." You know, like but appearing at a food bank is not going to elevate your sales. It's not going to.
It just seems like an inappropriate spot to show up in a costume,
especially that costume. Again, we talked about this when this story originally aired and before anyone actually bought it, and just how disgusting this costume is because it's too real. It's way too real.
It's too realistic, right? When you generally, if you have a costume designed after like an animal or food or something, it's this kind of cartoon version of it in the costume.
Yeah.
This is like, you look like you're a giant donair with arms.
It looks like you have a magnifying glass and you found an old donair somewhere and you're just looking at it through the magnifying glass and you see all the grit and the details and the sliminess of, like, donairs are delicious, but they're not visually attractive at all.
What about his quote about, like, this was an Alberta costume, we're an Alberta place, we bid on it because we want this to stay in Alberta? Do you think there was genuinely any kind of like Alberta pride that went into him spending $16,000 on this atrocity?
No,
or was that just that just felt, he's like, it just feels right to say it?
Yeah, and it's $16,000. Like, oh, what are we going to do and spend this money on? Like the actual
the government
is like, no, that money is going right back to the Alberta government. We're talking about big oil Alberta here. Like $60,000 is literally not even a blip on the map for Alberta.
No.
And the fact that they're like, well, where are we going to spend that money now that Alberta is $16,000 richer now?
Anyway, this whole thing, in my mind, Buddy bought it because it was free publicity, because the media was already covering this. The story of this donair costume is already on Keep Canada Weird. Maybe this was his ticket to get talked about on the show. You got your way, buddy. Cost $16,000.
Yeah, you got some news coverage. Now put that costume in a closet somewhere and never take it out again.
Okay, that settles it. The verdict for us on this story is guilty. Guilty.
It's gross.
Guilty
of
being
gross.
not
just a verdict stamp says
gross
on it and disgusting and ugh. The donair sauce is just, anyone who's listening to the podcast and hasn't visually seen this costume yet needs to YouTube it and just see exactly what you need to see it to believe it. It's so disgusting.
Seeing as we're on the topic of donairs, by way of donair costumes, we accidentally kind of stepped into some controversy, it seems, with this whole donair business. We talked about donairs on the show when we first covered the donair costume, and how we thought that they were like kind of an East Coast thing. Then we heard from Jake from Germany, who provided their understanding of the history of donair. Remember, Jake pronounced it a little different and talked about it. Well, I think by Jake sharing their thoughts on the history of donairs on the show, they caught the ire of East Coast listeners who firmly believe donairs are our thing. I got several emails about this, but I also got a voice memo. Listen to this piece of listener mail. This is feedback for Jake. Jake, if you're listening, you stepped in it. Listen to this.
Hi, Jordan and Aaron. I was listening to your Keep Canada Weird yesterday, and I was listening to the response from Jack from Germany. I think that maybe they should go have a look at Wikipedia and look up donair. The donair, spelled Donair, is a Halifax food, was invented in Halifax, and it is Halifax's official food. So it's a modification of the DONOR, but it's different, and it's Halifax's, and they don't have it in Germany. Thank you.
Ouch.
Wow.
Do you think that? I think that was personal.
She sounded actually angry. Like she was steaming in the chair, like it goes to Wikipedia. Just like, Wikipedia it's something you can access, but it's not the be all end all of accurate information either, because anybody can access a Wikipedia and change it and alter it and add their own spin to it. So to take that as gospel, I don't know. That's kind of a slippery slope, I think.
Well, are you implying that there's some kind of like corporate espionage where people are going on Wikipedia and messing with the etymology of the word or the food donair as a way to take it from, what was it, the Turkish people is what Jake in Germany thought? Needless to say, that voice memo, I think, shines a light on the donair from wherever it's from. Halifax has claimed it in its current form, the form you and I know it as, the form that costume displays. I think if you go to Turkey or Germany, there may be something similar with a cooler sounding name, but it's probably a little bit different.
Well,
I think they're both
every food
right.
is a little bit different depending on where you are in the world. But that doesn't mean that it's not that food. So I hate to disagree with, an East Coast listener who's
Pissed.
because Halifax does take a lot of pride in popularizing the donair, but certainly we can all agree that it didn't originate from there, So I think that's kind of, is it Jake, or I think it's Jake from Germany, or is it Jack or Jake?
I think it's Jake.
Okay. Well, we'll go with Jake for now.
Jake or Jack from Germany. We offered to send ketchup chips to in the last episode. I haven't heard from them.
No.
So if
Which is an
if
insult.
you're listening, three things. One, you upset someone about donairs, and they came to us. Thanks a lot. Two, get in touch so we can send you some ketchup chips and get your review. Three, is it Jake or Jack? Clear it up for us. But let's move on. I don't want to upset anyone else.
Yeah. Well, we're both already upset too, so everybody's upset tonight.
Our next story isn't going to upset anyone. I think this is a victimless, weird story. Have you ever picked a lock? Have you ever had a bedroom lock that you had to pick and you locked yourself out or something?
I've never. I broke into your apartment one time.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I did.
I don't remember this. Tell me the story.
Okay, so we'll deep dive into this, but the memory just popped back into my head, and I remember this very clearly. You and I did live together in this apartment eventually, but before that, it was you and a few other guys living there, but I would hang out at your place all the time, and I was out one night with some other friends. And I didn't have enough money for a cab ride because I was staying all the way out in Bayers Lake in Halifax. So it was kind of more of an expensive cab ride. I didn't have any money for a cab. So I was like, okay, I'll walk to Jordan's. And then you guys weren't home. And I was able to do the old credit card trick because no one was home.
Oh. So you put the credit card in and like kind of move that little piece of metal.
Down through the door. And it moved the latch, and then I was able to get in, and you guys were gone.
Wow.
And then I went and slept on your couch, and then you guys were out that night, and you and your roommates came home out from drinking at the bar that night, and you were, and I was there so much anyway that it wasn't that unusual that I was asleep on your couch. But I remember your roommate Sam being like, "Was Aaron here when we left? What's going on?" And I heard him, but I just pretended to be asleep because like I don't want to tell them that I broke into
This is a problem for tomorrow.
If they vaguely think that I might have been here before they left, then I'll just keep that.
Yeah. Well, that was good. It's good that you were able to trip the lock and find safe passage into our house and a sanctuary from the elements. The only locks I think I've ever picked are some doors, like interior doors, like the door to your bathroom. It has like a little line, and if you get like a coin or something, you can like turn it and open the lock. Or sometimes there's a little hole, and if you stick a Q-tip in, it opens the lock.
Yeah, there are some pretty pathetic locks out there that any child could crack.
Yeah, well, those are the only locks I've ever cracked, the ones a child could crack. But I like the idea of being a lockpick. I'd love to be able to like really know how they work, and I'm using pins and listening to the sounds.
Those kits online. A lock
to learn how to do it.
Yeah, and then you can learn how to do it. I think it takes some skill, but you can learn it.
Well, what I've learned is there's also groups on Facebook and web pages where amateur lockpicks from all around the world gather and discuss, the cutting edge of lockpicking. And as it turns out, one of the best lockpickers in Canada is a man from Winnipeg. He's a bus driver. And he was tasked or took on the challenge, I should say, of picking a lock to a safe that was in a bookstore in the United States. Now, the way we're going to hear the story in a second, but the way this works, you may have seen something like this. You go into a store or something, and there's like this safe that usually it's this big old thing, and they don't have the key for it, and there'll be a sign, like, try a combination, try to pick this lock or open this safe. Have you ever seen something like that?
No, I've never seen like a public lock picking campaign where.
Okay, there's a place, it's like a used collectible pawn shoppy kind of place in Halifax, and they have a large safe that someone like donated. It has a combination lock, and they don't know the combination, and they say whoever can find the right combination wins a gift card or something. But it seems like this bookstore in the United States was doing something similar, or found themselves in a similar situation, and a man from Winnipeg was the man for the job. Listen to this story.
People in Baltimore, Maryland tried to open a mysterious old safe at a bookstore. That is until a Winnipeg transit driver with a knack for safe cracking took on the challenge.
As a joke, they put it in the group saying, you should go and do this. So as a rebuttal, I said, well, if you guys pay for it, then I'll go do it.
Winnipegger Rick Amazzini heard about the safe through an online group of safe cracking hobbyists. He raised enough money to travel to Baltimore and unlock the safe at Red Emma's bookstore. And while he was successful, there wasn't anything of value inside the safe.
Rick Amazzini has come down all the way from Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Apparently a couple of dozen people have given it a try. It took me 10 hours because the lock was not cooperating properly. So when it finally did what it was supposed to do, it was a big relief, and I turned that handle as fast as I could. I couldn't have done it without the help of the group that I'm part of, so it's really a group effort. The only thing that was of interest, it was a pay stub from 1924. This whole experience taught me if you just have to put yourself out there and do something that's totally crazy, like fly to Baltimore and try to open a safe, and then it just might work out for you.
So he did it. First question for you, Aaron, is if you're a bus driver who has the skills to crack any safe, why do you become a bus driver? Is there not, like, is he maybe just that honest? I just feel like he has access to a lot of wealth.
Well, the reason that someone who picks safe locks like this guy does has to keep a regular day job, because as you can see, most of the safes that you're going to open have nothing in them. So he's not finding anything of value ever. How much are they even, in this case, all he got paid was his travel, I think, was just to get there, to be able to do it. And there was just an old pay stub in there from the 20s. Like, it's just, it doesn't seem like it's a lucrative business.
Well, I'm thinking there's probably safes that have a lot of valuable stuff in them, and this guy can probably get in them if he wants to.
But I would think that most safes that had anything of value in them that have been abandoned.
I'm talking about robbing banks, man.
Robbing banks? That's illegal.
Okay. Well, you're as ethical as this guy because your mind didn't even go there.
No, because think of it. It took this guy 10 hours to crack this safe. You're going to sit and try to rob a bank with the little needles pointing into the lock, listening up to it for 10 hours, like trying all the different combinations.
Yeah. And I think robbing a bank could be so impractical.
Especially with you, because now that I'm kind of getting a glimpse into your bank robbing mind, like that's how you would have tried to do it. Like
he even... when I read the article, it took him about 10 hours to get into the thing, but that included him, like, he was like live in that group talking to people, and it was members of the group who were kind of helping him figure out what to do. So it was really like, he even says himself, like it was a kind of a collaboration between him and the other members of his group that did it. So I think, it wasn't exactly like a Mission Impossible kind of scene, but it's cool that a Canadian went down there and did it. That's interesting.
It's cool that he did it, that he was able to do it. It's just kind of, they're already there, and the safe has been in their business for God knows how long, and they've always wanted it opened, and someone's going to come down and do it for us. Oh, okay. And they sit there for 10 hours wheeling and dealing on the internet and trying to crack this thing open, and finally they get it. It's like, there's nothing in here. Oh, well, thanks for coming. It wasn't really a waste of our time.
Well, it kind of sucks for the bookstore. Now they just got this big, stupid safe with nothing in it.
Yeah, but it doesn't change anything.
Mystery.
The mystery was interesting. Oh, we've got this old safe here. It's never opened. But it's not a waste of their time. Nothing changes for them, really.
There's, I think something changes. That bookstore, if you went in a bookstore and there's a massive safe in the center of it, and they're like, we don't know what's in there. We can't get it open. People from all over the world have tried. It could be anything.
Yeah, but then you just lock it again. And put something in it.
It's been on the news.
Put something in
it. Break the lock and be like, shit.
Yeah, be like, it's locked again, and we put something in there. So come back to our store.
We forgot what it was.
Yeah, we forgot, so we don't even know. So the mystery is back.
Yeah, maybe that'll work. There is a place outside of Halifax. They call it the Defen Bunker, which it's an underground like bomb shelter kind of thing that was built by the Canadian government, I think, maybe during the Cold War. And now you can like pay to get a tour of it and such. But there's a safe in that the owner of the Diefenbunker, it's now privately owned, the owner can't get the safe open. And I think they do, like, they go on YouTube and try a different combination every day or every couple days with the plan of eventually they're going to get the right combination and open it. Maybe there'll be nothing in it, but...
Well, I would say it sounds like more than likely there'll be nothing in it because, again, if there was something of value at one point in time in that safe, the person who knew it was there, who had the combination, took that thing of value out of it and then shut the door of the safe and left it there because safes are very complicated to move, especially the older, large ones. So just because it's there locked doesn't mean there's anything in it. And a 99.9% chance is that there's nothing in it at all.
Now, before we get into the next story, I just want to tease what's coming at the end of this episode. I've been thinking about doing this for a while. Now that the Keep Canada Weird podcast is its own standalone podcast on Apple Podcasts and all the other podcast places with bonus content being added, we're getting reviews. People finding the show, naturally coming upon it, listening and giving us a short review of what they think about it. We're going to end this show tonight with a collection of those reviews, but before we get into the next story, I just want to read one.
Okay.
The title of this review is Be Prepared for the Best Weirdness. They gave us a 5 out of 5 star review. They say, I'm a huge fan of Nighttime. It was the first podcast I followed. And while I live in the United States, I love listening to Keep Canada Weird. Jordan and Aaron are my favorite podcast hosts, and I'm ready and looking forward to the animal uprising. Please, I encourage everyone to listen to these brilliant and attractive podcast hosts. That's from Elizabeth Sandman.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Very flattered. Very flattered. That she called us
brilliant and attractive.
Yeah, that's very kind, very generous, extremely generous. He obviously doesn't watch the live stream on YouTube.
No.
So never watch the live stream on YouTube because
don't tune in, Elizabeth.
That's like the finding out who the real Wizard of Oz is this little...
Yeah, it's like opening the safe and finding
a pay stub.
Opening the safe. Yeah, we're the aesthetic equivalent of a pay stub in a safe.
Yeah, finding what somebody else got paid.
All right, let's get into our final story. This is the one I teased at the beginning. This may be my favorite. I don't... Actually, at fear of building it up too much, I'm still going to say it. This may be my favorite story that we've covered yet on Keep Canada Weird because I think this one has it all. This story involves bushes in Kitchener that are blocking a pointless sign. I'm going to call this section Bushes in Kitchener Blocking a Pointless Sign. This involves residents in a Kitchener neighborhood that are raising concerns about overgrown trees and bushes that are blocking a sign that welcomes people into their neighborhood. So you've probably been to a neighborhood where, you leave the main street and as you turn into this new little subdivision or neighborhood, there's like a sign on a rock or on a piece of wood, or it's, like, welcome to Hampton Bay, a community of people. Something like this. And it's just this kind of little pointless sign that welcomes you to the neighborhood. In this area in Kitchener, I think the neighborhood's called Crossroads, the bushes around that sign have grown up too much. People are pissed. Listen to this.
Well, residents in a Kitchener neighborhood are raising concerns about overgrown trees and bushes. They want to see them maintained, but are having a hard time finding out who is responsible, the city or the region. CTV's Heather Centerin takes a look at that.
Neighbors in this Laurentian Hills neighborhood say it's a great place to live. But there's two growing problems.
All the overgrowth of the trees and the bushes.
Tucked away behind the overgrowth at each corner are two signs to welcome residents. But some say, what signs?
I just don't know what's behind there. I have to move this bush here, there. Can you see now?
Residents call it an unkempt eyesore.
They're a disgrace to our nice community. Our neighborhood deserves better. You can actually see this one a little bit better.
Beth Kowal has lived here for almost 15 years and says the signs were visible then.
I'm ashamed of how it looks like right now. It does not represent our neighborhood, which is a really nice neighborhood to live in.
According to Google Maps, this is what the signs looked like at the intersection of Windflower Drive and Ottawa Street in 2014.
It has to be cut right down.
Kowal says she's been trying to get the area maintained, but has been bounced around from the city to the region with no luck.
At least 4, maybe 6 times I've sent emails to them and still getting the same answer. It's not their issue. They're passing it on to somebody else. No one is taking onus on this.
We reached out to both the City of Kitchener and the region of Waterloo, and they both told us the same thing, that they will not be able to provide us information today as the region and the city will be connecting to discuss. Both the city and the region haven't confirmed who is responsible for maintaining it, but that won't stop residents from pushing back.
Trim the bushes so we can see this nice sign that was supposed to be, there for our community.
The signs read Crossroad, your new beginning, with residents hoping their fresh start isn't buried beneath for much longer.
I love a story of people complaining about pointless stuff. This is it. Oh my goodness. Where do you want to start with this?
Well, everybody who hears this story has to be coming to the same conclusion and question exactly, like a universal language. Everybody comes to the exact same question. Why don't they just cut it themselves?
Yeah, for people who are listening to this story and not seeing the video of it, it's not that grown in. It's like my backyard gets more grown in than this when I'm away for a couple weeks. All they need is someone with a grass trimmer, or a pair of garden shears in 3 minutes of spare time, and it's back to its glory. It's just slightly grown in. But then also, that aside, it's not like this important sign. It's just this dumb sign with a bush kind of half blocking it. It's not a big deal. We talked at the beginning of this episode about, the price of food and gas and all these reasonable things to complain about. If you're spending your time writing emails to the mayor and the MLA and calling the news about this stupid sign that's semi-grown in, oh man, could you imagine living next to these people? I had the fire department called on me a couple days ago because I had a bonfire in the backyard, which is legal and fine.
Oh yeah, your neighbor loves to interfere in your fun times.
Yeah, and he would be pissed if our neighborhood sign was grown in like this. These people are a nightmare in my mind.
Well, this is when you end up at a certain point in your life where you have nothing. And you have no hobbies, you have no loved ones, you have nothing going on for you whatsoever. You have nothing to do other than think about a sign that says nothing, that's covered by a couple of bushes that you could easily, in 5 minutes, trim yourself.
You wouldn't even need garden shears. If you went with regular scissors, you could reveal
I'm sure you
the
could
beauty
just
of this sign.
push the bushes back with your bare hands enough.
Maybe crack a piece or something.
A few of them in 30 seconds, and it would expose the sign that says nothing. And the people who are not from that town, who were brought there by, Google Maps, no,
what, like a delivery man or something?
It's like when a sign says "Welcome to a place that you're already in." It's like, yeah, I'm already here. I don't need to be told that I'm here. I'm already here.
Yeah, and yeah, one of the people in that clip made it seem like it was reflecting poorly on the community. Like, it's not this. This is a nice place to live. It's not like this.
Yeah, this is a developed country we live in, and how can Trudeau sit there on his high horse and allow the bushes around this sign to be overgrown and covering up the sign? How can he do this?
The only part of it that's valid, I'm thinking, is the sign is grown in, so they call the city. But the sign, it's not like on the sidewalk. It's kind of like back a little bit. So like the city's probably like, yeah, it's not on like our property. We're not going to like maintain your sign. But who do you call? Like when someone built that subdivision, they probably put that sign there or that little monument or whatever there. But after all the homes were sold and everyone moved on, it's just who maintains it, whose property's on it. I guess if someone got hurt, on that land, they'd figure out who owned it and sue them or something. But when it comes to, like, you know, sending someone with a grass trimmer to hack at the dandelions in front of it, no one cares. You call the city, they're just like,
There's got to be some teenagers in the summertime looking for jobs. You know, I see them around my neighborhood with their lawn mowers. They go door to door knocking on people's houses saying, hey, do you need your lawn mowed, like, for $20? Like, you know.
Yeah, these ladies in the news clip, they should just give, like, some kids $15 and say, this summer, use these scissors and don't allow our beautiful sign to be blocked.
I'm sure they do it for a couple of cigarettes. They're probably...
You know how teenagers are.
I know the economy of teenagers. Yeah, it's cigarettes and booze and porn. You know, that's what they all want.
All right, so we agree this is stupid. The people are out of line.
It's actually one of the dumbest things I've ever seen.
Me too. That's why I was so glad to
And she talks so much about how nice a sign is. For a sign so nice that she claims is so nice, nobody is fessing up to owning this sign. So you would think if it was as nice as she says it is, I'd be like, yes, that's my sign. Yes, I'll cut the bushes. It's so nice.
Yeah. It's ridiculous, completely ridiculous. But I love it. I love that was news and that someone cared enough to send a camera down there. Well, speaking of caring, let's get into it. Let's spend a few minutes and review the reviews that Keep Canada Weird received. The first one that I read before we went into the story of the ridiculous sign thing was someone who already knew the show. They said they were a listener of Nighttime. But there are some reviews from people who have no connection to the show, just stumbled upon us. I think this is going to get interesting. I'm just going to read them, and then we'll go off. And almost all of them are positive. When I chose this topic, I thought, we're going to have some hate. Fortunately, we didn't. So maybe we're not as bad as we think. So this is another 5-star review, 5 out of 5. They say, 100% the best podcast in the world. They say, thank you guys for bringing a smile to my face with your hate for Tim Hortons. I agree, it's gross. And then they use one of the emojis of someone puking. Thank you, Aaron, for your spicy attitude, and Jordan for holding everything together. I love you guys both. Thank you for making the show. It is the best show in all of history. Thank you. That's nice.
That's nice. I'm sure the creators of Breaking Bad or The Sopranos or... they probably have something to say about that comment, but
yeah, I'm gonna take it though. This one though, this is a review that I appreciate even more than it's the best in the world. The name of it is The Animal Uprising is Real. Their name, actually, their Apple Podcast name is Concerned Canadian. They say, thank you for raising the alarm on the #1 issue affecting Canadians. Period. And that's a 5-star review. So that's someone who likely realized the animal uprising was happening before we covered it. Maybe they were just waiting for a platform.
They were just waiting for the words to be said. Like sometimes you feel and see something going on around you, but you don't quite have the words to describe it because maybe it's so strange and you think you're crazy. But then all of a sudden a podcast comes out that starts howling at the rooftops that there's an animal uprising coming, and all of a sudden, these listeners are like, yes, I've been noticing that, the animals are rising up and trying to take over the world, and we're all doomed.
Yeah. And and this person leaving this review found a beacon in the night in this podcast.
Yes.
We're like a lighthouse of animal uprising awareness. And every time the light spins, a new group of people are illuminated with the truth of what's going on. And I'm happy to play a small role in that. The next one, I was that eloquent?
It was. It's like you were this university professor retiring, and you're talking to your class on the last day, and you're just kind of looking back at your career and the minds that you inspired and the people that you helped grow into writers and producers and all these.
Okay. Well, I take my work seriously.
Yeah. It was just nice to sit back and listen to it and not interrupt you.
Okay. Thanks. We got this one review that I'm about to read. I think I've read on the show before, but another reviewer is kind of like criticizing this reviewer. People are kind of communicating through the reviews. Listen to this. So this is our one negative review. It's a 1-star review. The name of the review is Weird That Edmonton Is Not Mentioned. And the review says, a quick peruse of the episode titles reveals Toronto mentioned many times, Edmonton not mentioned once. Typical.
You know what's great about that now is that this review mentioning Edmonton has now been mentioned twice on this show, which means Edmonton has now been mentioned twice on this show. So now the percentage of Edmonton content has risen by 200%.
Here's the rebuttal from another reviewer named Jay Burke, who gave us 5 stars. The name of their review is Trusted Weird News Source. They say, Keep Canada Weird is the #1 source of weird Canadian news. If you want more content from your city, then make a story recommendation. Works far better than a 1-star review. And then the middle finger emoji.
And then a middle finger, yeah.
That's pretty good. Yeah. Next one. Oh, yeah. This one I think may be slanderous. We got to talk about this one. Beans & Co. is their Apple Podcasts review name. They say, the name of the review is Favorite Podcast. Here's what they say. Keep Canada Weird is hands down my favorite podcast. Quirky, funny banter, callers, a collective hate of Tim Hortons, everything you need and want in a podcast. The rapport between handsome Aaron Airport and Jordan is awkward and awesome. Keep being weird, my dudes. I read that and I'm like, what's awkward here?
There's nothing awkward about our relationship, and our chemistry is the opposite of awkward. It's fluid. It's reasonable.
It is definitely reasonable. We don't cross any lines.
Yeah. It's sensible. Like everything we're saying is what needs to be said, right?
Yeah. That's why I thought it was weird when they said it was quirky and funny. I would have thought more like investigatory and revealing.
Yeah, because this is a serious show, and the stories that we cover are real stories. The research and journalism that we do is top notch, and it's real and it's serious, and what you and I talk about relating to these stories is heartfelt and appropriate to.
Yeah, and to call it banter?
No, that's like tossing it aside, like it's like we don't prepare for this or something.
No, exactly. This like you don't go to school for 15 years for quirky banter.
This podcast is 100% scripted. That's what the listeners don't realize. Because we're so natural in our delivery, it sounds like, and the writing is so good because it sounds like we're just making this stuff up on the spot. But everything that we're saying, including what I'm saying right now, has been completely written out beforehand.
Fact-checked, editors reviewed.
A staff of writers.
Peer reviewed.
There's about 30 writers in my closet right now that are in an old connected computer paper printer, just spitting out scripts in real time, and I'm reading it. It's like a teleprompter.
Explain this one to me. The final review is another 5-star with the title Keep On Keeping On. They say, I love Jordan and handsome Aaron Airport together. They're like donuts and double doubles. Better together.
That's the most negative review we got.
Really?
Well, because he
double
mentions Tim Hortons as if it's a good thing.
Well, it doesn't specifically mention
but double
but
is
I guess
directly related to Tim Hortons.
We know damn well what they're talking about. If you went to McDonald's and got a coffee, you wouldn't ask for a double. You'd ask for 2 cream and 2 sugar.
Yeah. I like going to Tim Hortons and asking for a venti. just see the teenager fall over.
Well, do you think, regardless of where it's being bought, do donuts and coffee, in fact, go better together?
It depends on the donut. It depends on the coffee, I guess.
Yeah, the type of donut. Because I find, I don't, when I think of it, I think donuts are fine on their own. The things that go better with coffee, I think, would be like an oat cake, something you can dip.
Yeah.
Because then together it works. You don't dip a donut in your coffee.
A nice cold glass
donut
of milk is good with a donut.
Yeah, because you can dip the donut in milk. Donuts and milk go better together. I think like dipping an oat cake in a coffee
That's
is
good.
like heaven.
Yeah.
That's
coffee and tea with an oat cake. Yeah, I can see that. But I never have a
that would go
donut
better
with
together.
coffee, like not intentionally.
Especially a double, like 2 cream, 2 sugar, and a donut. You'd have to carry me out of
Coffee
there.
and ice
If they
cream
make
is
an
really good. Like
insulin
when you
pump.
have like a piece of pie with ice cream on top and a coffee, that's good.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that's damn good.
Yeah.
I want to remind our German listener, get in touch. We want to send you ketchup
Yeah.
chips. As well, I should also say we got a voice memo sent to us through nighttimepodcast.com/contact from an American listener, but every so often things get screwy with the transmission of the voice memo to me. In this one, I couldn't hear it well, but I think it was an American listener asking us to send them ketchup chips, but I didn't get their return information because the audio of their voice memo was so crappy, and I don't think it was a problem on their end. So if you're listening to this, and you sent me a message through nighttimepodcast.com/contact asking for ketchup chips, right back, because we're going to send a few bags out to people in exchange for reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron, is there anything else you want to reach out to listeners for? Anything else you want them to do or say?
I want the listeners to leave some reviews, on Apple Podcasts for us. And
yeah, that's a good idea.
And rate the show and share it around. Spread the word, spread the gospel.
Yeah, people, like, when you listen to podcasts, they're often saying like rate and review
subscribe,
us,
rate,
leave us
and
a rating
review,
on.
blah blah blah.
I don't know if that actually does anything, so I'm kind of hesitant to say go review us.
Mhm.
But if you're going to review us on Apple Podcasts, well, definitely subscribe. That definitely helps. But if you're going to review us, make sure it is a give us something worth reading.
Yeah,
Write something
always
nonsensical
do the 5
on there.
stars. Because actually, that does matter a bit too. We do want you to put 5 stars. What you say though can be anything.
Yeah, let your freak flag
so
fly.
as long as you give us 5 stars, we're giving you permission to say whatever you want in the review.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a nice way to end this.
Yeah,
Aaron, until next time.
Jordan, until next time.
If something in your neighborhood's bugging you, take it upon yourself to fix it. Don't wait for the government to overpay someone to come clean your sign. It would probably cost $16,000 for the government to send someone there to clean up that sign when you could do it yourself with some shears.
You know what?
Get out sometimes.
Yeah, and you know what the solution to this is contact the Alberta government. They are $16,000 richer right now. They'll send you the money to afford to have a landscaper clear those signs for you and make your town the once beautiful and elegant place that it was to live again. Make it that.
We say, $16,000 could do nothing for the government. It could probably fund the hiring of one teenager landscaper to show up there
for an entire summer.
Problem solved.
And they could probably do some other landscaping too. While they're at it.
Problem solved.
Yeah.
You don't even have to go on the news complaining about a bush. All right. Let's end it there. Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks, buddy.
I want to thank you for helping Aaron and I fulfill our mandate to keep Canada weird, but let us also call out to you for even greater support in this mission. If something weird happens in your neck of the woods, make sure you let us know. We'd love to hear about it and include it in an upcoming episode. Additionally, if you want to share any thoughts or opinions on any of the stories we discussed tonight, we want to hear about that too. The best way to get in touch with us is by sending us a voice memo at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. We hope to hear from you. Now, before I wrap things up here, let me give some thanks. A big thanks to Aaron for sharing another evening with me and you, the listeners of Nighttime. A shout out to the internet's favorite cult leader, Unicole, who provides the series' intro and outro voiceovers. And lastly, but most importantly, a massive thanks goes out to each and every one of you listening to the show, as without your interest and your support, this show would be as pointless as it would be impossible. And now on the topic of those supporting the show, let me give a huge thanks to the newest subscribers to the Nighttime Podcast premium feed. Christina, Stacy, and LM, thank you for going premium. And for anyone else who'd like to support the show but isn't currently subscribed to the premium feed, let me tell you about it. Our premium feed subscription costs only a couple dollars a month, and it funds the creation of the show, but aside from that, it'll give you the episodes 2 days early, it'll give them to you ad-free, and it will give you access to a full back catalog of Nighttime episodes. If it sounds good, you can go premium right now at patreon.com/nighttimepodcast. And even if you can't go premium but still want to support the show, the best way to do it is tell all your friends about the work we're doing here. We'd like their support as well. So until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let us know if you see anything weird.
Keep Canada Weird is written, hosted, and produced by the Nighttime Podcast.